One of the things that I figured out is that I actually like weddings. I like the idea of weddings. Um, I like when weddings flow because all weddings don't flow. Um, but I will say, having been in, the star of my own wedding, or one of the stars of my own wedding, well, I can't even say I was a star of my wedding. I probably was the co-star because my wife Sharice she was the star. Like, yeah, that's another thing too, fellas. Like, you're not the star of the wedding. You know, you'll never be the star of it. I mean, like, you could be Barack. You know, Barack wasn't a star of his wedding. The star was Michelle. I mean, the woman is always she's always the star of the wedding. You're just there. Like, nobody nobody coming to see you, Otis. And that's cool. That's cool. Um the thing that I've noticed over the years is that uh I probably I probably don't go to as many weddings as I have in the past. I mean, obviously, um I guess at the time of this record, I guess it's the wedding season, I guess. I think, just to give you an idea, like, at the time of this recording, it's football season, so it's the fall. A lot of people have fall weddings. I had a fall wedding, if you will, um, because my anniversary is September 23rd. Um, so we got married in the fall. But there probably should be a rule against people having weddings during football season, because that's just not cool. Because nobody wants to be sitting at your wedding and trying to keep up ESPN to see what the hot games are, and you missing the game, or you got to watch the game on your phone. Because when I got married in 2000, September 23rd, 2000, there was no there was no ESPN app. There was no. I mean, there were cell phones, but who had a cell? I think I had a pager back then. No, I had a cell phone. But it was a flip phone, right? So there was no watching the game, during the wedding, or the reception. But I've been, like I said, the co-star of my wedding. I've been in a few weddings, and a couple of observations I can, kind of share with you guys about weddings. Um, First of all, weddings don't last long. They don't. Uh, Generally speaking, weddings don't last long. The average wedding probably lasts about 20 to 25 minutes, if that. So, and that's nothing, official. I mean, you probably look it up, but I didn't look it up. But just generally speaking, the average wedding lasts about 20 to 25 minutes, which is an interesting concept because, you know, some people, not all, but some, spend so much time planning for a wedding. You plan for the wedding, but you don't plan for the marriage. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, who am I? What do I know? I'm just the old married guy, right? Um, but yeah, generally speaking, weddings don't last long. So I mean, like, it would be in your favor to definitely plan for your marriage as opposed to planning for your wedding, because they don't last long. I mean, you get in there, walk down the aisle, say a couple of things, play a song, say a prayer, recite your vows, boom, it's over. Just like that. So nah, it's not something that, I think I'm not gonna sit here and say that you have to, be sitting there with a clock. But at the same time, just understand that, weddings don't last long, relatively speaking. So, whatever you're trying to do, get it done. Um and you know what? Also, weddings, in my opinion, and what I've observed and experienced, almost every single wedding that I've either been in or been a part of or attended, they never start on time. Sometimes they're 2 minutes late, sometimes they're 10 minutes late, but they don't start on time. And that's because it's hard to get people to move on one accord when time is being considered. It just is. And I mean, I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, I went to my cousin TT wedding and it started. No, it didn't start on time. Wedding time was 4 o'clock, started 4:03. It's not on time, people. I'm talking about you say on your program that the wedding starts at 2, that boom, music is being played, people are walking down the aisle at 2 p.m. No, I'm not talking about the wedding starts at 2 and the bride is coming down the aisle at 2. No, I'm not saying that because it's people that have to precede the bride. You get that point of it if you've been to a wedding. But no, they don't ever start on, and again, mine included. My wedding was, I want to say it started like 5 minutes late. Um, I can't tell you why, but it started 5 minutes late. I was in the church and I was standing there waiting. Um, but I mean, like, well, my circumstance is a little bit different too because, and I don't did I talk? I can't even. I don't think I've talked about this on this podcast, but I'll give you a quick story with regards to my wedding. My niece, my lovely, lovely niece Taylor. Uh, my niece was born the day before I got married, right? And my brother's my best man. Shout out to my brother Damon. And we're 3 years apart. And so Taylor was his first child. So he and my sister in law, pregnant. I want to say she was born early. Taylor was born early. She might have been born a couple of months early. So I didn't. My brother calls me. He's like, "Hey, we're going into labor, so forth and so on." So they have Taylor, and he was like, I could. They had Taylor like that Friday, the 22nd, and he's like, I can come now because we didn't get married in same place where my well, I was in South Carolina, but different parts of South Carolina. And so he was like, "Well, I can come tonight." I was like, "Bro, you just had your first child, man. Stay there and chill, enjoy, soak this up." I was like, "I'll see you tomorrow." Just I told him what time to leave and how long it would take him to get to where we were, so forth and so on. So long story short, my brother comes to the wedding the next day and he gets lost on his way to the church. And he he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, I'm lost, man. I don't know where I am." And I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I don't know." So anyway, long story short, I don't see my brother until literally 15 minutes before the wedding starts. But I'll be honest, if I had to wait, if I had to go get him from wherever he was, there's no way I was going to get married without my brother standing there beside me. That wasn't going to happen. I mean, my wife knew, she knew we were going to get married, but to be honest, I don't, well, at the time she didn't know he wasn't there. It's like nobody knew but me and a couple other people. I don't think anybody really, really knew, but he was on the way. And then when he got to the church, he wasn't even dressed. I'm like, dude, how you show up in some Jordans and some shorts, man? You should have been here. But he ran into church, got dressed, and we did the damn thing. But anyway, long story short, my wedding didn't start on time. It wasn't because of my brother. It just didn't start on time. I mean, it happens. But, again, most weddings, almost every single wedding does not start on time. If you don't believe me, tell me the next time that you go to a wedding. And look around and see if it starts on time. I actually had one experience where my wife and I went to a friend of a friend's wedding. And this friend, who wasn't my friend, but friend of my wife's friend, and this is no disrespect, but the person whose wedding they went to, they were a Nigerian couple, right? And I don't know if all of my Nigerian brothers and sisters do this, but for whatever for whatever reason, it's like customary for them to be fashionably late. Okay, that's cool, I guess, in Nigeria, but in Atlanta, that's not how we get down. And I kid y'all not, this wedding started almost 2 hours after it was supposed to start. Like, I literally was sitting there like, yo, if these don't show up, I'm out of here. I mean, like literally, like it, and I mean, like the people were just sitting there, and it wasn't in a church; it was in a rec center or something. I can't remember where it was. No, it wasn't a rec center. It was that spot downtown. It was an event center. But nonetheless, you don't have people sit. I mean, like there was no reason for you not to be in, in the place getting it started. And everybody was just cool. Like it was a bunch of, Nigerian people. Everybody just sitting there just chilling, like do. Everybody on their phones and, checking the game. And I'm like, kind of shit is this? Like, why can't we get this wedding started? Like, I mean, and then it didn't help that I didn't want to be there no way. So like, I was on like 20. I can't even say I was on 10. I was on like 20 for real. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And my wife, she was apologizing, but there was nothing she could say because it wasn't her fault. I mean, she encouraged me to come because it was a friend of her friends, but still, no, man, I ain't going to your wedding. And again, there's no knock on my Nigerian brothers and sisters who listen to this podcast because I may be big in Nigeria. I don't know, but I'm not going to a wedding that's starting damn near 2 hours later. And I mean, like, there was no announcement saying, hey, well, the bride is, stuck on 285. None of that. Just like we're gonna show up whenever we show up, and we might make this wedding pop, we might not. And then like when the wedding was over, and it was time for the reception, I was like, nah, man, I'm out. I'm out. My wife was like, well, I could stay and ride. It was like, nah. I was like, you can stay if you want. I was like, I'm out. I'm not. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way I'm sticking around for this. Because at this point, I don't know what time the reception is gonna start. The wedding and the reception was in the same place. I can't tell y'all what time it started because I was out of there. I'm like, I'll never do this again. Ever, 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 ever. So yeah. Um, and when I think about weddings too, as a guy, I kind of look around and I came to the realization that I'm probably done being in weddings. Like I haven't been in a wedding in a while, and like I would only be in weddings for like my boys, my homeboys that I grew up with, or my boys from college. And don't get me wrong, I got a couple of single partners, ladies. I got a couple of single partners, but if I'm being honest and real with myself, I mean these cats are well established, and but the reality is these cats pushing 50. Like I don't, I mean of my single friends that I could think of off the top of my head, I could think of four right now. Them dudes ain't getting married. And ironically, what's funny is two of my closest friends who are single, they both have parents who, well, one's his parents are deceased, but his parent, I know his parents were married at least 40 plus years. And my other friend, his parents are still married, and they've been married 53, 54, let's just say 55 years. So like it's not like they haven't seen marriages or anything like that or know what commitment is about. And they're probably not getting married. And like I said, my closest friends who are single, nah, I'm pretty sure I won't be getting a phone call, hey man, I need you to get your tux ready. And I got this one friend from high school. We've been tight for, since high school. And every time we talk, you know, that'll be one of the first things I ask. I'm like, man, all right, man, what's up with the ladies? Oh man, I got this girl, blah, 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 blah. And the second thing I'll ask them is, hey man, do I need to get my tux ready? But the reality is I'm probably done. I'm probably done, being in weddings. My friends who are single are probably not getting married. Now, I will say this much. I do have two friends that, if they do get married, the bachelor party is going to be off the chain. Like, it's going to be off the chain. But it's probably not happening. Probably not going to happen. And I'm okay with that. I mean, marriage ain't for everybody. Everybody don't need to be married. I'm gonna be honest. And honestly, there's some married people that that don't need to be married. And there might be some married people listening to this podcast that might not need to be married. But hopefully when you know, you know. I'll just put it like that. But yeah, I can honestly say I'm probably done. I mean, unless, my kids get married and they want me to actually be in their wedding. No, I'm done. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess once my daughter gets married, I'll marry her, or walk down the aisle with her, if you will. But that's years from now. Many, many years from now. I don't even want to think about it. But when my sons, if they want me in their wedding, or am I supposed to be in their wedding? I don't know. I honestly, I hadn't even thought about my kids getting married. Get your degrees first, kids. Um, but yeah, I'm probably done being in a wedding physically. I'll go to them from time to time, but yeah, I'm probably tapped out on that one. Um, Also, vows. Vows are always interesting because, you know, you listen to people say their vows, and the famous vow, will you love, honor, and obey? Will you obey that person? I don't, was that in our vows? I think that was in our vows, but you really don't obey people. I mean, I know like where that comes from. That comes from, a woman, being submissive to her husband and obeying what he says. But I mean, it's 2022 at the time of this recording. It ain't 75. This ain't James in Florida. Shout out to James and Florida Evans. Um, so that ain't what it is. So, it's I don't know, man. I hear that, in vows, will you love, honor, and obey? What does obey mean? I mean, does that mean that my wife has to get my permission slip to do stuff? Does that mean that I have to get her permission slip to do stuff? I don't know. But vows are cool. But I mean, like, I, unless you show me the videotape of my wedding, I can't tell you what our vows were. I mean, we had the general vows like everybody else, and I said them. I mean, it's my pledge to her. Now, we're just like anybody else, or maybe not so much like anybody else, but no, the marriage is um us being committed to each other and dedicated to fighting for and with each other. Um, yeah, that's what it is. Being committed to the commitment of each other. Um, but now I don't. I mean, the vows are cool, I guess, but I don't remember what I said. Yeah, I mean, and most of you listening probably couldn't tell you. You'd have to pull up the tape. Pull the tape out. That's the only way you're gonna remember. You ain't gonna remember nothing else. Because again, the wedding lasted 25 minutes, so you don't remember shit. You probably remember a couple of things from the wedding. I have a couple of funny moments from my wedding that I remember, but I mean, bruh, at the time of this recording, we've been married 22 years. I barely remember what I did last week. I could tell you a whole bunch of stuff about the wedding day, but what I said in the vows, no, I don't remember that. And that's not to diminish it, but I mean, nobody does. But that part about obey, it's always interesting. And I know over the years, some people have taken that out of their vows. And, it is what it is. They're entitled to do that. But yeah, I think, weddings are cool. Um, the only bit of advice, if I can give you advice, you know, be prepared, get yourself prepared for the marriage, not the wedding. Because the wedding is just an appetizer. That marriage is a full course meal. And you got to be ready. And, the game looks totally different from the stands than it does the sidelines. And it looks different from the sidelines than it does on the field. So, anybody can coach from the stands, anybody can coach from the sidelines. But when you're on that field, come on, Jack, you got to be ready. That's a whole different ball game. And that's what marriage is. I mean, like, again, it's not something that's easy, but then again, it ain't supposed to be easy. You got two people coming from two different walks of life, and you're trying to come as one, and maybe you get involved and, have some kids or something, and then you got this debt, and you're working together and you're trying to make things happen for yourself and your future. So it's a novel concept. And it's something that can be very, very beautiful and beneficial to those who are willing to put in the work together, because you got to work together. And I tell people all the time, marriage is work even when you ain't working. Marriage is work when you sleep. So, but focus on the marriage, not the wedding. Just don't get me wrong. Weddings are cool. And I know there are a bunch of people that spend an inordinate amount of money on weddings. Hey, man, that's your choice. I ain't gonna tell you what you spend. The last thing I'm gonna do is be pocket watching. But, prepare yourself for the marriage, because a wedding, it only lasts 20 to 25 minutes. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, because the podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. And from time to time, we'll have bonus episodes like this one that will drop Sundays at midnight. Again, that's going to do it for me. I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.